me romance. Read me romance. Read me romance. Read me romance. You could take a look in a book, that's fine. Or you could sit back, relax, and unwind and read me romance. Read me romance.
Welcome back, lady listeners.
Hey, lady listeners, we have a brand new audiobook this week for you. We have Sure Thing by Dominique Laura. And I'm so excited to have her with us. The cover is beautiful. And we were just saying, like, Sure Thing is a really sexy title.
It's a good title.
Yeah, that's
I
a really
like
good title. We should use that and be like, we'll name the heroine Dominique, right? I'm just kidding. This is a joke. For legal purposes, this is a joke.
For educational purposes.
Yeah, educational purposes, this is a joke. But no, seriously, we've got Dominique Laura with Sure Thing, and I'm going to read the book bio just right off the top because I love it. It's this so good. It would make me one click instantly. Brooke and Grayson meet in a bar. No, that isn't the start of some joke. Brooke thinks that she and Love are natural-born enemies. Will Grayson convince her otherwise? She's a sure thing for a good time. He's a sure thing too, just in a different way. Like, I love it. I love that it just sets it up right away that she's here for a good time and that's it. And he's like,
here to take her.
He's like, or
this is going to be just one night.
Or we're going to fall in love forever. I mean, either or. It could go both ways. So we're super excited. And we'll talk about Dominique Laura stuff in just a few minutes. But I have to tell you something. So this past weekend, my oldest one, Lydia, and I, my 12-year-old, we were in the living room and she was like, oh, let's just watch like TV because we were making bracelets together. And she was like, oh, let's just
Taylor Swift?
No, we don't like Taylor Swift. Neither one of us does. I don't know. I'm just not a Swiftie. I'm sorry. I don't know what it is. I just never got into her.
People say they're not, and then they go to the concert and they're obsessed.
I would never spend that much money to go see somebody I really didn't like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a lot of money to go for somebody that's like,
I don't know. Even the movie sold out.
I'm a Gen X. I'm sorry. Like, I had my Fiona Apple. I don't need Taylor Swift. Anyways, when we were making bracelets, and she was like, just put something on TV. And I was like, okay. And I went to Netflix, and it was like one of the first recommended things. I was like, I'm just going to click on it. And I did. And it was Survivor. Okay. And so I used to watch Survivor back in the day because the first season aired in 2000. And I would have been like 18.
Yeah, I would have been like a freshman.
Yeah, I would have.
Actually, maybe.
Oh my God. I was like, it was my first year of college. So you were a baby. But so I remember watching it. I watched several seasons and I loved it.
My mom watched it, I remember.
Yeah, I don't know really why I quit. But so anyways, there are 2 seasons on Netflix right now, and they're 2 random seasons. One is like season 18, the other one's like season 32.
Yeah.
And they're on like season 45 or something. Like, that's how long they've been doing this. But anyways, so we watched both seasons and I loved it. And I was like, man, that was so good. I forgot how much I like this show. And so all of them are on Paramount Plus. So if you ever feel like going back and watching them, go on Paramount Plus, get the subscriptions out of the commercials, because otherwise these commercials are going to eat you alive. So, because there's so fucking many spaces cut for commercials. Yeah. I'm like, there's no way. But anyways, I was going to go back to the beginning and start with season 1, but it really is like, that was a different time. 23 years ago, it's not that long ago, but that was a different time. Men were different. Women were different. I got like 3 episodes in and I was like, no, we have to fast forward a few years. So
yeah, people were meaner.
Yeah. And it was, and I realized too, as I watched it, because I ended up going to season 8 and starting there because that was my favorite season when I watched the old one. Season 8 is the all-star season where they took some of the best players from the first 7 seasons and put them on one together.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic because I liked all the people that were on there. And I remember because I went through and I watched all of season 8. I remembered why I liked this season so much because the 2 players that meet on there are Rob and Amber, and they end up meeting on the show and falling in love in that season. And at the reunion show, he proposes. And I was like, even 20-year-old Leah was a hopeless romantic, like a total romantic about this, because I just remember swooning because they fell in love. They were on the island 10 minutes and they formed an alliance, and the two of them stayed true to it and went to the final two. They went together, the two of them, to the final two. And before they announced who the millionaire was, he proposed to her. Before they announced which one of them won, he proposed. And they were like, well, you locked it down. Like, either way, you got the million, So,
That happened on Big Brother.
oh, did it really?
Uh-huh. That a
Oh,
couple went all the way.
Oh, that's
And
wild.
she ended up winning. I think he got himself, like he fell for her on the show, if I can remember correctly. He ended up having to get, I think they went to the final 3 and he ended up getting kicked or
Oh,
something.
wow. Oh, okay.
But like he sacrificed himself for her. But they got married anyways and had like 2 kids now. So it's each other's $1 million.
And well, I ended up looking it up because I was like, are they still together? Don't break my
Oh my
heart.
God, that's actually happened twice.
Has it really?
Yeah. And the guys both sacrificed themselves and the girls both won.
I think, what's funny is like I looked it up to see if they were still together. They're still married. They've been together like 20 something years. They have 4 girls, which is adorable.
Mhm.
But I looked it up because he was doing an interview on a podcast and he said, I think Survivor has the most success rate with married couples. I think he said there's like 5 or 6 now. It has the most that have been married the longest. But I would be curious to see what Big Brother was too at that, because it's kind of the same situation where you're put into this like nonstop time together. You have nothing else to do except talk. And
Yeah.
so, and that's what he said. He was like, I think the success rate is so good with Survivor because he was like, you see these bachelor shows and stuff. And he said, they're competing for affection or whatever. He was like, but also you're taking them on these whirlwind dates where like you're going horseback riding, you're going on yachts, like you're doing all this stuff. And he was like, and then you come home and everything after that is mediocre. It was like going to the grocery store isn't this big production anymore. It's not, this big romantic voyage. And he was like, with Amber and I, when we were on the island, like one of our first dates where we were just catching fish to eat because we were starving, and he was like, it put kind of that into perspective. So
you become a team, a real team through hard shit.
And you see people at their worst. And he said that he was like, I've seen you at your lowest low and at your highest high when you won immunity. Like, whatever. And he was like, and you knew that it was going to be the two of us going into the final challenge and, that kind of thing. And then he's like, I've seen it where we were separated and we thought this was it. You're going home. Like this is the end. And, so it was really interesting. Like, seeing that story play out and remembering why I love that show so much. Mm-hmm. And then I realized, I think it was when I stopped watching was because once Survivor was such a success, because it really was the genesis of reality TV, like when it first happened. After Survivor was successful, they started doing like The Amazing Race, and then they started doing like just a million other shows, and then they started exactly, Big Brother. And then they started doing, like Flavor of Love and all these other like dating shows and Bachelor and like these terrible shows, And so, anyways, I think I just got burned out on it. And I think I was just like, I cannot watch reality television anymore. And so I just kind of cut it out. I know, but, and I get it because there is so much appeal to it. And even now, like, I kept telling them, why did I stop watching this? It's so good. But I can also see if I keep going with this, I'm going to get burned out on it because there's 45 seasons, like that's a lot.
I did that with Big Brother. I watched like 5 or 6 seasons, like all through. And I was like, okay, I got to stop for a little while.
Yeah. I was like, my brain's going to get rotted out. But you know what? The more I watch it, the more I think I could win it.
I don't think I would totally fail Big Brother or Survivor.
Really?
Oh,
you don't think you could do Big Brother? Big Brother's a walk in the park for me.
No, I don't think I have the lying in me.
Oh, really? I don't feel like
conniving. I would feel guilty. I would walk around with a lot of guilt.
Yeah. I don't really see it as lying. To
It's
me, it's
not.
just strategy.
Yeah,
I'm like,
it is.
I would love that mental strategy. That would I would just be like on crack all the time and be like, this is amazing. But
Because
I
I
don't
remember
know.
one season there was a couple where they fell for each other,
Hmm.
but the guy, he was America's player, and we got to tell him what to do. So
Yeah.
he fell for this girl, and he would sometimes he couldn't tell her that he wasn't up to him who he was nominating, what he was picking to do.
Oh no.
And so he does have an alliance with her whenever he can
Hmm.
maneuver it.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh shit, when he'd have to do stuff, he'd have to maneuver it in a way where she would have to make him think somebody else did something so she wouldn't get mad at him
Yeah.
because he really liked her. They ended up breaking up years later, but it was cute watching it unfold because he's
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
that room and he's like, you guys are killing me. But they were really cute. The girl he liked was super sweet too, like
Yeah.
bubbly.
I don't know. I kind of felt like with Big Brother, they would purposely cast annoying people.
Oh yeah.
Like you couldn't get just a normal person to play that game.
Mhm.
And maybe it's that way with Survivor now because like I said, I haven't watched it in so long. Maybe it's like that too that they pick these outlandish characters just to make good TV.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like maybe that's why I like the originals so much, the older episodes, because these are just people strategizing. And I
Yeah.
would really
I
like that.
Now that I'm thinking about the last Survivor I watched, where it was like the first black guy that won it, he was
Okay.
a lawyer.
Hmm.
But when he went in, now I'm like, you would do this. He strategized. He was a lawyer. He told everybody he was a bartender.
That's exactly what I was thinking
And
too. I was like,
he
these people are
threw
dumb saying
he
what they
fit.
do.
You could look at him and tell him he was fit, but he threw like the first 4 or 5 competitions, wouldn't win
Yeah.
them, just would like
Not being a threat.
yeah,
Yep.
he was just riding right in that
Uh-huh.
middle
Yeah.
all the way
Yep.
through. And then he
Hmm.
came at the end and that oh,
And
because
then you just run it. And then you run it and you win every single challenge.
they
Yep.
formed the cookout and all the black people took each other to the final 5 of
Nice.
6.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that's
Mhm.
awesome. Yeah, one of my favorite players that, when I watched the 2 seasons that are on Netflix, one of my favorite players was Taj. She was in the band or in the girl group SWV. She ended up marrying fucking Eddie George, who's a Heisman Trophy winner. And I was like, she was like real nonchalant at first when they were like, "Oh, what does your husband do?" And she was like, "Oh, he does like football statistics and stuff." And they were like, "Huh?" They're like, "Really? Like for NFL or college?" And she's like, "Oh, a little both." And they're like, "What's your last name?" And she was like, "George." And they were like, one of the guys was like, "Your husband's not Eddie fucking George, the Heisman Trophy winner." And she's like, "Yeah, I guess." And like played in the NFL, like huge, like this woman's millions on top of millions she's got. And they're like, "No, she's not winning. No." But she ended up being one of my favorite players because she was a badass. Like
Mhm.
she was so good. But anyway, so I don't know. I've just like enjoyed it so much more than I thought I would. But so I've been doing that instead of reading this week. I needed a week off. I like binged so many books in like 2 or 3 weeks. And I was like, I need a break.
I've been in
So,
the Mormon cult. I've been down
oh
the
God,
uh Ruby Frank train.
what's that?
You don't know about the Ruby Frank? Are you on TikTok?
Yes.
Ruby
I
Frank's
keep
mother?
telling you, I'm on Black TikTok. I'm not messing with that algorithm. I love where I'm at.
It's the mother that had a show called Eight Passengers on YouTube.
Mm-mm, I don't know that one.
And her kids, one of her kids, they have like this cute, like when you look at the family from a picture, it's like these
Mm-hmm.
perfect little church looking family or whatever. And one of the kids broke out of the house a few weeks ago and ran to the neighbors and was begging for food and water and had duct tape on his ankles.
What?
And you know where they were at? They were at the therapist's house. And like all this shit is coming out about the Mormon church. The Boy Scout shit plays into it that you were talking about. I seen you posted
Yes.
the guy,
Yes.
the dad that's was the son with the whistleblower
Uh-huh.
that sued them, and he actually changed the laws in one of the states for statute of limitation.
Oh,
This
wow.
guy was mixed into this therapist, like tore his life up. It's like this whole like box that just keeps spreading out all this shit. I'm like, oh my god, of craziness from the
No, I
Mormon
haven't
Church.
heard of any of this.
Huh. It's nuts. I listen to like me and another girl listened to like a 5-hour interview with that Boy Scout guy. I just put it on play and I was doing stuff and listened to him talk for like just tell the story. And you could tell he kept like there was so much more to say, but he couldn't get it out.
Is it the guy that worked for the Boy Scouts, the black guy, or was it
No,
oh,
he was one of
okay.
the kids. That was the one of the he actually called 9 he told the counselors what was going on. They were like, "We're gonna fix it. Don't tell your parents." And they kept not fixing it. So one day he was like, "Forget you guys," and he called 911
Oh, shit.
and the cops showed up.
Damn, good for him.
And he was only 14, I think.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that Boy Scout documentary was heavy. I
It's
posted up on there. I was like, "Hey guys, there's a warning on there, but it's not strong enough. Just so you know."
it's
Like,
fucked up.
yeah, really. We don't
Is it
have to
even
go
still
into
are
it.
the Boy Scouts still around?
Yeah, but they're called the Scouts now because they accept girls, because now that they are no longer funded by the Mormon church, they don't have enough money. And so they're trying to get recruitment. So they've opened it up to boys and girls. But no,
It's just an insane story. And
yeah.
other people came out and been talking about it, telling their stories of crazy shit. And it's just
Mhm.
insane. But that's what I've been listening to or doing.
So I'm sorry we don't have any current reads for you right now, lady listeners. But
I had it in an audiobook actually today.
oh, did you really?
Yeah.
I did finish my Adriana Herrera one that I was talking about last week. I
Mhm.
had one I'm sorry, I didn't mean to like
No, you're
interrupt where you were talking about. It was the 1 week to claim it out. I finished it. It was wonderful. I loved it. Totally recommend it. It's like 4 hour, 5 hours on Audible. You can buy it as a duet. It's 1 week to claim it all and just for the holidays. I talked about it last week if you want to go back and listen to it. And we've got links in the show notes from last week. But I finished it. It was awesome. I'm going to go on to the next one now.
I got Counting the Cost, which is kind of the rebel daughter from the Duggars, wrote a book.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
thought that there was going to be like the same old stuff as some of the other ones have done.
Mm-hmm.
No, an excerpt came out on like Monday, and I read the excerpt. I was like, "Oh, she's telling it all." And it comes to find out, she didn't sign the non-disclosure disclosure.
Oh, nice.
Where the other kids
Okay.
got paid, like they never got paid, and their dad was putting all their stuff, like taxing them, putting it on for
Yeah.
taxes, and he wasn't even paying them.
Yeah.
And he tried to like get out from under it by giving them each 80 grand,
Mm-hmm.
and then they signed non-disclosure, and she wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
She wouldn't
Good
sign
for
it.
her.
Because
Good
they
for
said
her.
she made like 120 grand on taxes. And she's
Holy
like, I
shit.
didn't make anything. And then he wrote her, I could not believe this. Then after she's trying to get this information about their taxes, she ends up having to get a lawyer to make him give it to her. Because
Yeah.
she owes his tax money and she doesn't know why. He tells her that he was like, I've been paying you. You've been going on these trips. I paid for your cell phone. He gives her a list of all these things he's done for her throughout her life, like $3 a day for food. Like,
Holy shit. Are you serious?
yes.
So basically, he's saying this is what it costs to raise you
Yes.
because I decided to have 20 kids.
Mhm. It's
Oh my
insane.
God.
What I've listened to so far, I'm like, whoa, this guy, I knew he was a dickhead, but Jesus. He's like used the shit out of his kids, and they have like non-disclosures for life.
God, that's fucked up.
That's probably why Anna Duggar hasn't written a book.
Yeah, if she does have a non, because you don't know what's on the other end.
Wow.
Although I
You
would think a publisher might be willing to pay whatever that money is for breaking the non-disclosure.
Yeah, maybe so.
Anyways,
What is that? What is the cost of that?
it depends on the contract. It's whoever draws it up. It can depend on the contract. Whatever the agreement is that you won't speak about it, and then you say. So, for example, and we're running long on this, but I'm going to talk about it anyways because I listened to this video today. They were talking about Chris Rock in the early 2000s. There was a woman, and I cannot remember her name. I'm so sorry, but she accused him of sexual assault and getting her pregnant. And so she had the baby, and they did a DNA test. He was married at the time. They did a DNA test and they said he was not the father, but she claimed that there was a tampering of the evidence. So the evidence was not controlled the whole time. The control was broken, I guess. Like the chain of custody was broken during it. And she said it was when his attorney or something got in the car with whoever it was that was supposed to be delivering it, and then he took it and like ran out of the car and ran inside, and so he was alone with it for like an extended period of time, and so like it could have been tampered with basically. But Chris Rock ended up signing it's like it's not a non-disclosure, but it's like that you won't talk about it. I forget, like a gag order or something.
Gag order, or you? Yeah.
So
he's
he
saying
ended
he's
up
silent on it.
so he ends up signing that. 14 years later, he goes on Howard Stern and he's talking about it, and he slits up and says something about this happened to me, blah blah blah. She takes his ass back to court, and they re-sign a negotiation they had to do it all over again to re-sign a gag order, and then he has to pay her again. And I'm like, what the fuck does she have on him that he's been paying this for 20 something years, and he says that baby's not his? What the fuck has she got on him? The lady the woman I follow on TikTok that did this reporting, I'm gonna look up her name, because if anybody is interested in the full story, she does like a 4-part series, and it is so fucking good. And she talks about the whole thing.
That's super disappointing, because I really like Chris Rock.
I know. And somebody was even like, and she even says on there, she's like, I've been waiting on this shit to break for years, because the reason he was in the news recently was because he was at Coachella, and he was one of the people that had to be like bussed out or whatever. And he's in the truck with this like artist named Diplo. Do you know who Diplo is? Okay. So apparently Diplo's a piece of shit too, because he like fucks underage girls. So anyways, so Chris Rock and him are besties, and she's like not surprised and she was like, but I'm not talking about Diplo today. I'm talking about this guy today. And so she's like, I've been waiting on this. And so she starts giving out facts. And the other thing is that Chris Rock has the same allegations from another woman that are eerily similar to the same thing that are on there. And it's like, he's paid that too. And he's like, and the reason that all this has come to light, all of it, and let me give you her name real quick too. Her name is Culture Work. CULTUREWORK. She's on TikTok. She is a fantastic, she does like entertainment journalism. So, but she talks about all of this came out because Chris Rock's attorney that he used at the time to set all this up, he is under federal like indictment right now because of all the shit he did, like forcing documents, recording private conversations, hiring mob people to like break into people's homes, like all this shit. Like it is like horrible. And the reason they know this is because when they seized all of his stuff, the feds did. This guy had recordings of him and Chris Rock's conversation where this attorney says he's going to fuck this girl up. He's like, we're going to knock her around. We're going to make sure she doesn't talk. We're going to make sure she never mentions this again. And Chris Rock's just like, yeah, because, you know, when somebody accuses you of rape, like your career's over. I'd rather have a needle in my arm. You know, I'd rather have pictures of me on the news with a needle in my arm than be accused of rape. And so he's saying this on the recording, and like he's agreeing to this guy like fucking this girl up because she claimed. And then the reason the sexual assault never came out, like never, you know, went to the press or anything, is because she went to the police, and the police were like, well, we don't know what to do with this report, so we're going to hand it over to Chris Rock's attorney. That's what they did with the rape report.
Yeah.
It's like
so hard to get a conviction on rape too.
Yes. And so like, I mean, she even like, she had evidence and stuff like it. Anyway, it's wild, but there's like a 4-part series.
It sucks. This totally reminds me of the whole Christine Ritchie this weekend when she said, you know, somebody might be a good person to you. Doesn't mean they're not a monster to somebody else.
Yep. I know. So like when she said that, I was like, man, that sucks. And she was like, yeah. And you know, she's like, he's in a room, you know, she showed a picture of him next to Louis C.K., the comedian who was like accused, you know, of jerking off in front of women. And he's also sitting there with Jerry Seinfeld in the picture too. And she was like, and nobody wants to talk about that when Jerry Seinfeld was 30 years old. He met this 17-year-old girl in the park and they started dating. And they dated for years. She was 17 years old. He took her to like Hollywood parties and he was 30 something years old. I was like, what the fuck? I don't know any of this shit.
I didn't know that either.
Yes. I was like, oh my God, everything is ruined.
Men are trash.
Men are trash. Oh my God. Listen, I'm going to get another email now that I've said it. Oh my God.
God.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we'll end that there. We've gone on a rant, but like I said, if you want to go seek out more information, Culture Work is incredible on TikTok and Instagram. I follow her on both. She's awesome. So, Dominique, Laura, let's talk about that. We've got Sure Thing. I already read the book bio, but I do want to let you know that Sure Thing is a complete standalone on its own. It's a fun, easy escape in the form of romance and flirting, which I'm like, that's exactly what I'm looking for right now. The ebook version of Sure Thing is free this week. So if you listen to this ebook you listen to this audiobook and you love it, go get the ebook too, okay? Make sure you enter this week's giveaway. She is doing a $25 Amazon gift card along with swag. And if you want to follow for more information and updates, make sure you get her on Instagram. That's where she's most active, at Just Dominique Laura. And like I said earlier, we'll have all the info down in the show notes and everything like that. Dominique Laura is the author of contemporary romance stories that range from super sweet, emotional, steamy, and everything in between. She lives in sunny Southern California with her dog and guinea pig. And when she's not writing, she's either binging her favorite shows or reading a book. She's also fueled by tea and happily ever afters. So cute. I know. She's so sweet. And so we're really excited to have her audiobook on this week. And I can't wait. This sounds like a book that is 100% something I love. So I'm ready to listen.
Let's send them in.
Let's do it.
We'll see you guys on the other side.
Bye.
This is Sure Thing by Dominique Laura, read for you by El Sonali. Chapter 1. Love and I are natural-born enemies. We don't exactly get along. Our track record together isn't the best, which might sound kind of lame, I know, but it's true. My entire life has been right guy, wrong time, or wrong guy, right time. And after several heartbreaks, I'm over it. My best friend Savannah, however, is the complete opposite, and love is something she's forever welcomed with open arms. Despite her own heartbreaks, she's never shied away from relationships and emotional intimacy, which is why she's now happily married to someone even I think is perfect for her, and she's expecting her first child. Those are things I don't think are in the plans for me. My relationships just don't seem to work out, and it really is sort of sad. A heart can only be broken so many times before it throws in the towel, so to speak. I used to be different, but as of a few years ago, I go out and drink, dance, flirt, and I hope it's enough to distract me from the fact that I don't have anyone waiting for me at home or anywhere else. I hope it's enough to convince myself that I'm not as lonely as I feel sometimes. Except, as painful as it is to admit, moments like this, where I'm staring down at my fourth empty cocktail, I start to truly second-guess the lifestyle I've accepted for myself. I start to question whether love and I are actually enemies at all, or if I'm just too scared and not receptive to it. I'm 25, live a pretty good life, and I have an incredible social life. Still, I can't ignore the void in my heart that grows a little more each day from a sense of loneliness I really do my best to ignore. I shake my head. I need to get a hold of my emotions. I'm in a bar, for crying out loud. Do I really want to wallow in self-pity? I grumble to myself and roll my eyes, annoyed at my constant dramatics. Get a grip, Brooke. Is this a habit of yours? A deep voice asks from my right, settling in on the empty seat beside mine. Talking to yourself and rolling your eyes at an empty glass. I give a dramatic sigh, turning to face the person attached to the voice. My head is too woozy for whatever this is, and I'm prepared to let them know just that when my eyes collide with the brightest set of blue ones, mirroring the shade of alcohol now settling in my bloodstream. I swallow back my retort, my body buzzing at the sight of the stranger in front of me. Though it's possible it's more a result of the alcohol than anything else. Always much easier to blame it on the alcohol than, well, yourself and other things. I blink a few times, gathering my brain cells. Is this a habit of yours? Approaching strangers in bars and hounding them with questions? His lips quirk up, amused, revealing the slightest chin dimple, barely visible beneath the stubble lining his jaw. That wasn't supposed to be funny, I deadpan, fighting the instinctual tilt of my own lips in response to his. But it was, he states, chuckling. I falter a bit, my narrowed eyes softening at the sound of his laugh. But, to answer your question, he says, forearms leaning against the worn countertop of the bar, I don't make it a habit of coming to bars often. Oh? I ask, brow arching in surprise. Why? Not classy enough for you? Because that's what he looks like. The classy type, I mean. The male character from a New England town that you watch on a hit show every Wednesday night. You know what I mean. That type. He shakes his head, eyes laughing at my tone. They just aren't my scene, that's all. But tonight they are? I ask, head tilting to the side as I take him in. He's tall and lean, and his grin makes my own lips twitch in response. My eyes do another quick perusal of his form. He really is lean, with just the right amount of muscle. I salivate. Legit, stand there, mouth watering, as I eye him up and down. His lips move, but I hear nothing. Just stare at the fullness of his lips. He's trouble, or he could be, and I know better than to fall for his type. But let's be real. He's the only real type I fall for. The pretty boy with polite manners who always has just the right words to say. The type to persist and manipulate until they've gotten their way. Except he hasn't tried to get my number yet, and his hands have remained a safe distance from my body. Huh. He looks like my usual type, but he sure isn't acting like it. Not yet, anyway. Though it is important to note that not all guys are the same. It's just easy to forget that sometimes. I'm sorry, what did you say? I blink slowly, bringing myself back to the present and out of my own head, where I make a habit of hiding out often. Nothing important. There's that deep chuckle again. I'm not going to sleep with you if that's what you think. I say suddenly, my alcohol-induced brain not using any sort of filter. My eyes widen, shocked at my outburst. Sorry, that was rude. No, it's okay. He shakes his head, eyes dancing with amusement. You're really pretty, so I wouldn't be surprised if guys come on a little too strong at you. Who even talks like that? Him, that's who. My cheeks heat, and I have no doubt that my pale skin is flushed red with my reaction. That was oddly sort of sweet. Emphasis on the odd part. Yeah, well, that's me. He lets out with a grin, successfully getting the bartender's attention as he signals for his own drink. He seems genuine and honest, or maybe that's the type of guy I want him to be. What with my quarter-life crisis at 25 and all that. So, you're here alone? He questions, concern lacing his voice. Yeah? I admit softly, though maybe that's information I should really keep to myself. I'm supposed to be meeting Savannah for our bi-weekly BFF dinner night, but with her growing a literal child, she wasn't feeling up to it. I get it, though. I do. I even offered to hang with her at home, but she insisted I come out and even recommended this bar that she read about online. There's a small sting I feel at being stood up by my best friend. But it's only because our lives are so different, and it feels like we're growing in completely different directions. She did promise to make it up to me, and she always keeps her promises. So really, I'll take it as a win. Coincidentally, so am I. He shares. I perk up, way more excited than I probably should be. Yeah? Yeah. He nods his head, voice lowering an octave. My buddy just called and bailed because something came up, and I was heading out when I spotted you. Oh, yeah? I smile, chewing on my bottom lip. Yet you're not trying to hook up with me. You're not a serial killer, are you? Definitely not. But even if I were, I don't think that's the sort of information I'd share with you. He says, voice low, but no, I'm not. I'm buzzed, and I'm hating on love for the time being, obviously. But lust? She and I are on the same page, especially tonight, particularly in this moment. I stand on unsteady feet just as the bartender places his drink in front of him. Want to get out of here? I ask bravely, waiting for him to respond, to say anything at all. Chapter 2. He continues to stare at me, blinking slowly, eyes narrowing in curiosity. He reaches for his drink, and I watch as his hand flexes around the neck of the bottle. I gravitate a little closer to him, the sounds of the people and music around us slightly fading as I focus on his features. Well, I press softly, boldly leaning a hip against the table. What do you say? He groans, his blue eyes flickering with various emotions. How much have you had to drink? His question is quiet and holds no judgment. He sounds more curious, a bit concerned, maybe, than anything. Just a few cocktails. I shrug, starting to feel self-conscious at his questioning. I mean, the room isn't completely spinning out of control, if that's what you mean. I still have my wits about me. He takes a slow pull of his beer. How much of a gentleman is this guy? Please? I try for honesty, knowing if I were completely sober that I probably would have walked away by now. I really just don't want to be alone. Really? He asks, not sounding convinced. I nod. It isn't a total lie. I definitely don't want to be alone, especially with someone like him standing so close. Someone whose dimple winks at me every time he speaks. Maybe it's the alcohol, or maybe it's the loneliness I refuse to acknowledge, but I want this stranger standing before me. I want him on a level that's a little scary to admit aloud. He's convenient, and here. But he also seems to be kind, and that's enough for me to throw caution to the wind and pursue a one-night something with him. If he wants that. It takes two to tango, as they say. Who's they? Well, people. That's who. Okay. He finally says, his deep voice breaking through my thoughts. How about we settle on a compromise, then? I arch a brow, questioning this so-called compromise of his. Why don't we go for some pizza and wings? He suggests casually. Pizza? I question, dumbfounded. And wings? Yeah. He says with a laugh, face leaning down toward mine. You won't be alone, and we both get to eat. If you ask me, sounds like a win-win. I mull it over. It isn't a terrible idea, but my body is on edge. The ache from missing another person intensifying the longer I stand this close to him, while he remains stoic, seemingly unfazed by my presence. I also really love food, so it is a win, yes. But I'm wondering why, bar dude? I still haven't learned his name, and that thought makes me annoyed at my carelessness. Isn't taking the bait I'm putting out the bait that hopefully screams how interested in him I am? At the risk of getting booed off a metaphorical stage, I'm attractive. I'm not everyone's cup of tea, but I'm fun and confident, usually, and that's something I don't take for granted. Because gentlemen still exist, Brooke. Accept it. Accept it, I grumbled to myself, annoyed. I'm sorry? The poor guy sounds worried, and I don't blame him. I'm a hot mess, and the alcohol coursing through my veins is doing little to help that fact, though its effect is disappearing the longer we talk. Maybe I did drink a bit more than I should have, and I only have myself to blame. But at this rate, I might as well be stone-cold sober. Nothing. I shake my head, straightening my posture. Let's get out of here. He sets his beer down, some cash beneath it, and follows me out of the bar into the nearly empty downtown streets of the city. He walks a few feet to the right before stopping, his arms extending to gesture at a hole-in-the-wall restaurant with a neon pizza and wings sign. Here we are, best pizza and wings in all of Los Angeles, he proudly exclaims. I crinkle my nose and my eyebrows draw together as I cautiously walk over to where he stands. I blink at the bright orange sign and then at him. I thought we were traveling somewhere that requires a lot more than a few steps. What difference does it make? His lips quirk up, his dimple doing that winking thing. More time with you, for one thing, I quickly say, not even the slightest bit embarrassed at my words. I stare up at him, trying to read the nameless man in front of me. He's definitely not like anyone else I've hung out with. I'm just not sure how I feel about it yet. He chuckles, his sky-colored eyes shining with amusement. You're something else, you know that? He pauses, a hesitant glimmer in his gaze. Brooke, I tell him, answering his unspoken question. My name is Brooke. Brooke, he says slowly, testing my name on his tongue. How about you? Do you have a name, mystery bar dude? Mystery bar dude? He repeats, clearly amused. It's what I've been calling you in my head, I say with a nonchalant shrug. Grayson, his deep voice reveals, causing my heart to squeeze, and by heart, I also mean my lady bits, though that's probably obvious. Grayson, I say softly, saying his name out loud. I like it. Now, are we going to get those wings or what? I'm also most likely going to devour an entire pizza on my own. Be warned. I'll be right there with you, trust me. Grayson reaches out ahead of me, opening the door. I step inside, smiling back at him. My buzz diminished the minute we stepped outside, thanks to the cool night air, which means my head is more clear. Still, I want the feel of his bare skin against mine as much as I did when he interrupted my solemn evening. You can never go wrong with pizza and wings, he says with excitement, following closely behind as a waiter leads us to our seats. He places his hand on the small of my back, and I shiver on contact, goosebumps spreading across my body. Careful, we might not stay long enough to enjoy the food. I practically purr, then widen my eyes in horror because, really, who do I think I am? That's why there are to-go orders. He casually retorts, the smoothness of it making me laugh. But I think we'll be good eating here. Still, my mouth opens, slightly surprised at his forwardness matching mine. Maybe he's the type to wine and dine before taking a girl to bed. That's fine with me, so long as Grayson, with the chin dimple, takes me anywhere. I'll gladly go along for the ride. It's the niceness. It has to be. And his voice and dimple. I can say all I want, but I am a sucker each and every time. I'll grow out of it someday. Maybe. Probably not. He really is comfortable to be around. I wouldn't mind more nights with him, unless he does end up being a serial killer. Then, absolutely not. Chapter 3. My stomach is full of buffalo sauce, Canadian bacon, ranch, and pineapple. Any remnants of alcohol left behind from the drinks I had has soaked into the savory goodness that is the food at this restaurant. I'm in a state of bliss, and the only thing that can top this night is a good-night kiss or something a little more lasting. Though, with Grayson's continued gentleness throughout the night, I'm not sure that'll happen. Thanks for dinner, I say sweetly, smiling up at him with my head tilted slightly, a clear invitation for him to kiss me. He smiles brightly at me and nods his head. I enjoyed your company. I stay silent, continuing to stare at him, position unchanging. Do you need a ride home? He asks, continuing the nice guy role that feels less like a role and more genuine than anything. No, I think I can manage. I'm trying to play it cool, even though I've had a really good time with this guy who is basically a stranger. Dinner was filled with food and light conversation that left me wanting to know more about him. Are you sure? Positive. The Uber app and I are close friends. I joke, turning on my heel and walking in the direction of the bar. I'll wait there until my ride is outside. Brooke, he calls out. I stop at the sound of his footsteps closing in on me. Before I can turn around, he's standing in front of me, a lazy smile on his face. His hands suddenly hold either side of my neck gently, and his thumbs caress my skin. One more thing, he says before his lips place a slow, longing kiss against my forehead. My eyes flutter closed, and I release a deep breath, melting into his touch. It's simple, the smallest of kisses, but it's so much I feel it against my ribcage. My body reacts, humming and begging for more. But I shut it off, focusing on the soft feel of his full lips against my skin. He's Prince Charming in disguise, and I'm definitely not immune to his charms. It might be horrible to think this, but I don't have the heart to fall for someone at this point in my life. I'm not ready. Lust is easy. She doesn't hurt so much when it's over. Unlike love, whose sole purpose seems to be stabbing at my heart at every given turn. Except love has no stake here, so out with that thought we go. His lips pull away from my skin, but they linger a bit, his breath tickling as he speaks. Thanks for hanging with me tonight, Brooke. He pulls back, his hands quickly following, and I miss his touch already. That's it? That's it, he confirms. Well, actually, I would like your number. You would, huh? I'm a sure thing, you know, I say playfully. So am I, he says back with some cheekiness, just in a different way. What does that even mean? I shake my head, trying to understand. You'll figure it out, he says with a small smile, handing me his phone. Your number, please? Since you asked so nicely and fed me so well, sure, I tell him, taking his phone from his outstretched hand and quickly putting my number in. When I hand him his phone back and he confirms I did put my number in, a smile brightens his face. I like that look on him. I start to walk away, looking back. Now that you have that, don't be afraid to use it. He shakes his head, laughing as he walks the other way from me. Maybe this is his ruse. Feed girls delicious meals, leave them high and dry, and then disappear with not even so much as a proper kiss. Even as that thought comes, the spot on my forehead from his kiss tingles still, reminding me of the way he'd held me for a few moments. I sigh, nearly melting into the sidewalk. Who is this Grayson dude, and how can I get more of him? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Chapter 4. You met a guy? Savannah asks, resting her hands on her growing baby bump. Correct, I confirm, shoving a piece of mango into my mouth. I met him at the bar last weekend. And you've been sitting by your phone, hoping every incoming call or text is from him? She questions, hazel eyes squinting as she tries to piece it all together. Mm-hmm. I nod, cringing at myself for the amount of time I've spent staring at my phone, waiting for something that hasn't come in. I mean, I probably should have texted myself from his phone instead of just adding myself as a contact. And all week, I kept thinking about how I should have made myself more, I don't know, alluring or something. Then maybe he wouldn't have walked away after a forehead kiss that had zero reason for being as memorable as it was. Alluring, Savannah repeats, biting back a giggle. I throw a piece of fruit at her. Yes, alluring. I was just too, I don't know, not alluring when we met, okay? Well, I'm sure you'll get plenty of opportunities to redeem yourself, Brooke, she assures, sounding far too confident of that happening. A grin appears on her face then, one she wears when she's pleased with herself, when she's being mischievous. Excuse you, what's that look for? I ask suspiciously. I've witnessed that up-to-no-good look on her before, and I'm 3 seconds away from tossing another piece of fruit at her. You'll find out soon enough, she says with a shrug, struggling to keep a straight face. Do I have to play the best friend card right now? I threaten, brows rising in challenge. You could, but it probably won't work. Savannah, you're so lucky you're my best friend and that my godchild is in your belly. Otherwise, I'd tackle you or something. It's an empty threat, and she knows it, which is why she waves off my words and continues on with her grinning. I let it go for now. Anyway, he made an impression on me, and since then I've been begging the universe for a redo, a do-over of sorts. I pause for dramatic effect. One that includes he and I getting to know each other better. It'll be a bonus if it's on an intimate level, if you catch my drift. Though I hate to admit that it's more than that. I think I'm infatuated with the guy. It's been a while since that's been a thing for me. Oh my gosh. So maybe you don't just want to hook up with him. Maybe you want something more, she says, sounding a little in awe. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, okay? I say, bursting her bubble. I mean, lust is easy. It's uncomplicated and fun, unlike love or the something more that potentially leads to it. Relationships have not been good to me, Sav, and I was starting to accept that. Whatever you say, she replies, sounding unconvinced. But you clearly weren't successful if after a few hours with some guy, you're thinking about other possibilities. I ignore the itch in my heart, the one telling me how full of crap I am and how right she is, and focus on the task at hand. Grayson and I will meet up again. It's just a matter of when and how. The how being the most pressing issue right now. I love living in the city, but it's so hot today I can barely breathe without feeling like I have to pass out, I announce, walking into Savannah's backyard. She and Paul are having a gender reveal party. Apparently, this is a very big thing, some sort of new rite of passage. I'm all for it. It's standard at these things to wear blue or pink to represent a girl or boy, whichever gender you think the baby will be. But here, Sav and Paul requested everyone wear yellow because it's more of a neutral color. I love that for them. So I'm in a yellow sundress with tiny white daisies embroidered across it. For choosing me as one of the godparents, Sav and Paul are really kind for thinking so highly of me because that's a big responsibility. I'll do my best. I'm pulled from my perusing when two arms wrap around my body and the hard-growing stomach attached to it bumps mine. Hey there, kid. Nice to see you, too, I say toward Sav's bulging belly before returning her hug. I'm so glad you're here, she says excitedly, pulling away from our embrace. There's someone Paul's been wanting you to see. Okay, two things. First, you act like I wasn't going to show up to this shindig. And second, Paul wanting me to meet someone makes my skin crawl because there's not a great track record there. What is he up to now? Hey, gorgeous wife of mine. Paul greets as he walks up, placing a loud kiss on Sav's cheek. Speak of the spawn. Nice to see you, Paul. I spat jokingly. Paul had healed my best friend's heart, righted her world, and made it whole again. I owe him for that. For a while, I was worried she'd never heal from her worst heartbreak. But Paul proved to be more than worthy of her trust and affection. I can only hope to be as lucky one day. You should remember that the next time you curse love, Brooke. My heart hisses at me. I ignore its words, like I always do these days, and focus on Paul, whose smirk is almost as big as the one Savannah sports. What is your deal, guys? You're acting really weird. I roll my eyes. Is this about that someone you want me to meet? I don't do blind dates, you know this. Again, we don't have a great track record with those. I'm still mentally scarred from the last couple you had me go on. It isn't a blind date, Paul says slowly. Sav's smirk widens to a smile beside him. It's someone you've actually already met. If it's Jake, so help me, I threaten, preparing to kneel him in his most sensitive place. Jake is someone we all went to college with, and he is also one of Paul's closest friends from high school, but he's a little overly cocky for my tastes. The unattractive kind. If you look up the term in the dictionary, there really would be a whole description about him along with a headshot. We had a mini fling during our first year of college, but that was over faster than it began. It's not Jake, Paul refutes, barely holding back his laughter. I shoot daggers at him with my eyes. It's someone you don't hate. At least I don't think you do anyway. You have 2.5 seconds to, I start to threaten, when someone walks up to our group, standing next to me. Don't stop on my account. A deep, heart-skipping voice speaks up from beside me. The one I've been hoping to hear again since we parted ways. I thought I recognized you. I was wondering if I'd run into you again. I close my eyes, thinking whoever has answered my pleas that he's finally here. I turn as casually as humanly possible, trying not to show my excitement. Listen, when you're 25, single, and love has put you through never-ending amounts of world-ending pain, you get stoked to see the man you've been crushing on and pining over. Which is why I am going to take advantage of this. I am going to make sure the man with sea blue eyes sees me, preferably without any clothes on, several times a week. If he wants to, of course. I don't even question why or how he's here yet. I just flip my hair over my shoulder and face the reason for the tingles spreading throughout my lower abdomen. Grayson, you're just in time to watch me scar Paul for life. And in response to what you said, I've been just a phone call or text away. Brooke, we both know you adore me too much to do that, Paul says, clutching his chest. I'm like a brother to you. Yeah, a brother I'd like to stab every time I see him. I comment in a sugar-sweet tone. That only makes him double over in laughter. I give Sav a handle your husband before I knee him look. She shrugs, silently questioning what I expect her to do. I stick my tongue out, and she joins in on Paul's laughter. They're children, I say out loud, fighting not to gawk at the man beside me. Grayson laughs, his smooth chuckle causing that same tingle from before to spread. Brooke, I did call and text, but it seems the number you gave me isn't yours. Grayson coolly announces. I face him more fully, momentarily forgetting about Sav and Paul. It definitely is mine. Oh, yeah? Grayson challenges, pulling out his phone and showing me a screen which has my contact information. Does this all look right to you? I breathe deeply, reading over the number. Then I read it again and again. A small amount of embarrassment taking root. Oops, that last digit should definitely be a 5, not a 6. He chuckles, shaking his head and correcting my number. He holds out the phone again for further confirmation, and I nod, cheeks heating. Now you've got my number, I say. The right one, this time. So, how is it that I've never seen you around with these two before? Grayson asks, hands gripping together. Is he nervous around me? I bite back a smile. I have the same question. My guess is that they were hiding you from me, but seeing as how we met without them being there or knowing, they clearly failed. Did we fail? Or was fate just on our side? Sav asks, her laughter halting, a grin filling its place. Yeah, Paul adds. It wasn't a coincidence that I bailed on Grayson and Sav bailed on you, Brooke, which led to you two meeting without us and getting along. Is that right? I challenge. He's wrong. It was sort of a coincidence, a happenstance, if you will, my best friend says, and her husband nods in agreement. While you and I were at dinner, Grayson was going to meet Paul at that bar I had read about. But then we both had to cancel our respective plans, and when I suggested it to you, I completely spaced on that detail. Pregnancy brain, you know? So when Grayson told Paul about meeting someone named Brooke at that bar and what she looked like, we pieced it all together and thought it would be sweet to witness you two meeting up here as a surprise. True masterminds are what we are. So Grayson is who Paul wanted you to see today. You two had no idea that we'd meet and hit it off that night? I question in disbelief. No idea. Sav quickly denies, though we do take a little credit because if we hadn't bailed, then it most likely wouldn't have happened. Not there, anyway. Today would have been the first meeting. We know how much you hate blind dates, so this would have been more casual, you know? You wanted to set me up with a stranger. Doesn't that fit into what a blind date is? I hold back laughter. No, it would have been more like an orchestrated meet cute, she says confidently. She's always been determined. What if we hadn't hit it off, as Brooke so eloquently phrased it? Grayson asks, arms crossing over his chest. He has a bemused look on his face, and my thighs clench, imagining him in places that definitely aren't appropriate for a gender reveal party. I shake away those dirty, albeit very welcome, thoughts. We hadn't gotten that far yet, Sav admits. But we won't focus on that now. Brooke, it was so hard not to tell you at brunch the other day, especially when you said you had waited by your phone for him to reach out and he never did. I widen my eyes at her. When she catches my expression, she stops and winces. Sorry. Anyway, here you two are now, part of the original plan. Everything before was fate. I wouldn't go that far, I refute, laughing nervously. I don't know. Fate sounds kind of cool, doesn't it? Grayson whispers against my ear. I lean into him, closing the small distance between us so that my side brushes more firmly against his. I relish in the goosebumps spreading across my skin. I feel like I should be annoyed that they were orchestrating a setup, but I'm not because that's actually kind of sweet. It's also funny that they still had a hand in us meeting, even if they didn't realize it at the time. You two are so cute, practically cuddling already. Sav claps her hands excitedly. I slyly step away from him. We would have made sure this happened either way, believe me, Paul says with a devious twinkle in his eyes. I'm sure you would have, I say back. I'm so happy it worked out this way, Sav admits happily. I am too, though I won't admit that out loud, not yet or ever. I can barely admit to myself that I'm developing a crush or something. I make a silent promise to be more open to whatever life has in store, especially when it comes to Grayson. So I focus on him, and his ocean-colored eyes hold mine. Oh, this is going to be fun. Terrifying, but mostly fun. Chapter 5. A few days have passed since the gender reveal party, where we learned that my best friend and her freaking soulmate, as annoying as he is, are having a baby girl. Naturally, I flipped out and wished Paul all the luck in the world because he is going to be putty in her hands, and she is going to have him wrapped around her finger. And, just like how it has been happening a lot more lately, the void in my heart has grown, and self-doubt has continued to sweep in. Am I doing life all wrong? Am I missing out on something? I shake my head. No, I am on the path I'm meant to be on. I have to believe that. Who knows what the future holds? Not me. I'm okay with that, but it's easier to forget when I'm reminded of how undomesticated my life is. Does that even make sense? Probably not. I focus my attention back on my work. The void will pass, and so will this emptiness I refuse to focus on. I'm fine. Fine. Just fine. In the end, I always am. Except, I can't help but wonder why Grayson hasn't reached out yet. So I text Sav. Brooke, Grayson still hasn't reached out. I really want him to. That admission surprises me. Maybe fine is overrated. Seth, maybe you should manifest it into happening. Or I can get his number from Paul and you can make the first text move. Brooke, no, thank you, but I'll try to manifest it. I close my eyes and have a one-way conversation with the universe or whomever. Then just as I open my eyes, a text comes through. Grayson. Hey, Brooke. Wondering if you'd want to hang out with me Friday night. Cue all the squeals, much to my dismay. Blah. Savannah. He seems really into you. He's one of the good ones, Brooke. I smile at her text. Brooke. I believe you. He also just reached out. So manifestation worked today. Excuse me while I flirt and try to capture all of his attention and hopefully his peen. Savannah. Peen? Really? I hate that I support that so much. Love you. Bye. Savannah. Good luck. Savannah. Don't get trapped in your head, okay? I roll my eyes at her, laughing at how well she knows me. Now, back to Grayson. Brooke. I'd love to. Just give me the time and place, and I'll be there. My cheeks hurt from how hard I'm smiling, and my crush is definitely bordering on the schoolgirl kind. But I like this giddiness that bubbles beneath my skin. It's fun and hopeful, and those are two things I rarely let myself feel when it comes to someone who could potentially infiltrate my life or break my heart. Cool, calm, and collected. That's the way to play this. Easy peasy. Grayson. Great. I'll send you the details later. My heart does a mini fist pump. He has no idea what's coming, or maybe he does. This is going to be the best week I've had in a really long time, and I can't wait to experience it with him. I'll force myself to focus on the positive because history tells me that life is better when I'm not being a pessimistic downer. I slip on a pair of Converse, throw on a loosely fitted high-waisted skirt, and complete the look with a plain cropped t-shirt. I look cute and simple, but the bold orange-red lipstick coating my lips contrasts that seamlessly. It's giving me confidence I'll surely need for whatever's going to happen tonight. I walk up to the apartment Grayson gave me directions and the address to, and knock. My stomach somersaulting with excitement at the mystery and possibility of what stands on the other side. I hear silence, but just when I pull out my phone to double-check, well, quadruple-check, his apartment number, the door swings open. My eyes trail up his form, and I bite back a smile at his casual attire. He's dressed in loose-fitting sweatpants and what looks like an old, overly worn band shirt. His blue eyes dance and hold on to mine as a smile plays on his lips, and his dimple deepens. You look beautiful, Brooke. Should I have also worn my favorite band t-shirt? I playfully ask, not sure how to feel anymore about the skirt I chose to wear. My saving grace is that it's comfortable and simple. You really do look good, though, girl. Own it. I pep-talk myself. Maybe, he says, smile widening into a full-blown one. What you've got on is perfect. Don't worry. Perfect. I repeat, loving how the word sounds coming from his lips in regard to me. Huh, I like that. Yeah? His eyes shine, and he steps to the side, allowing me space to pass through. I take it, slowly stepping in, casually resting my hand against his bicep as I step over the threshold. So, it's date night in, huh? I ask, looking around his place, absorbing what I can. It's homey and warm, and it has more personal touches than even I have in my own place. My chest swells with something I don't want to name. I'm impressed. Assuming this is a date at all? It's definitely a date, And I thought it'd be nice to stay in. Have you in my space," he says quietly, almost shyly. I turn my eyes to him and grin at the pink coloring his cheeks, just visible from beneath his stubble. "You're blushing." "Am I?" he asks, embarrassed. "I wanted to impress you. You seem like the type of girl who appreciates effort and simplicity over, well, an expensive restaurant or something." "You're not wrong," I tell him, almost awestruck at his accurate assessment of me after only a couple of meetings. Grayson is sweeter and more considerate than any of the other guys I've dated in the past. He's sincere and thoughtful, and it's only our third time really interacting with each other. Imagine what it'll be like in a few weeks or even months. My chest clenches at the thought. My heart isn't ready for that, but being near him makes me wish it was. Around Grayson, especially right now. It's easy to toy with the idea of something deeper than a hookup or two. "Brooke," Grayson calls, interrupting my thoughts. I shake them away and focus on the man leading me toward another room. "Hmm?" is my response. I need to get a grip. I have a goal, and that goal will not be achieved if I don't give him my full attention. The goal being to stop being so guarded as best as I can and just enjoy whatever this is. "I have a surprise for you." He sounds so proud of himself. "A surprise, huh?" I ask excitedly, following closely behind him as he leads us into what looks like the kitchen and dining area. "You're lucky I like surprises." "Yeah, well, if you didn't, I had a backup plan," he says over his shoulder. "Of course you did." I mumbled to myself, shaking my head at his sincerity. I really am amazed, officially. "I hope you don't mind something a little cheesy," he says, and before I can ask what he means, my eyes widen, taking in the setup in front of me. Flowers decorate a small table, complete with lit candles and dim lighting, and what looks like a buffet table at a cheese festival takes up most of the table space. There are varying dishes where cheese is very clearly the main ingredient. I blink furiously, drying my watering eyes at how amazing it all is. "How did you know?" "What? That cheese is your favorite, and that anything that has cheese is on your list of must-have foods?" he asks, sounding excited and proud. "Savannah told me." I laugh, my throat clogging with an emotion I'm, again, too afraid to name. "Of course she did." His hand presses against my lower back, his feather-light touch causing a shiver to move through my body. "I hope this is okay." "It's more than okay," I say honestly. "It's the sweetest, most thoughtful thing anyone has ever done for me, especially on a first date. I really do love my cheese." "That's a shame." His face twists in disappointment at the first half of my words. "You haven't been dating the right people then." "No, I guess I haven't," I say, knowing how true those words are. He just smiles, eyes shining and dimple transforming his face. I turn slightly and press my hands against his shoulders. It might be really soon, but if I were looking for something serious, you're the one I'd want to explore it with. I admit slowly, surprising myself. I go to pull back, but Grayson's hands gently grip my upper arms, and he shakes his head slightly. "Thank you for saying that, because when and if you're ever ready, I'd like to do just that with you." Then his lips are on mine, and we're kissing. Slowly, sensually, tongues tangled against each other in a dance I don't want to end. He's trouble, but the good kind, and that's more dangerous than the not-so-good kind I'm used to dating. Grayson has the potential to snatch my heart and run. Actually, he has the power to convince me to hand it over, no questions asked. I force the wall over my heart to not double its strength because that's the knee-jerk thing to do. You don't want his heart. You want his fun and attention. Something less complicated. I tell myself over and over again, but I know those words aren't true. They're just a last-ditch effort. The longer his lips move against mine, the more I want it to last. I sigh, slowly pulling my lips from his. So, did you ever think you'd attend your own personal cheese festival? He questions softly, smiling at me like he's the happiest he's ever been, not at all bothered by me ending the kiss. I did that to him, and I like it. A lot. I like him. Oh. My lips tingle, but like with everything else, I try to shake it off, focusing on the good guy in front of me. No, but thanks to you, I might have to make it a monthly thing or something. It turns out he'd ordered takeout from different delis and restaurants, but that makes him all the more irresistible. He somehow was able to order all the makings of a perfect cheese lover's dream. And by the end of the night, that extra protection I fought against my heart to not put up isn't even a thought. And what little walls I did have up are gone, demolished, crumbled, non-existent, like they had never been there to begin with. You're like a fairy tale come to life, Grayson. And I'm not sure how to feel about that, I say over a bite of fried cheese sticks. What do you mean? He asks, laughing lightly. I feel like at any moment you're going to disappear and turn into a pumpkin or something like that. I shake my head. I'm not entirely sure how that story went, but you know what I mean. He chuckles, the sound sending a jolt of energy to my heart. Are you trying to compare me to Cinderella? Yeah, I am. I nod. I didn't do a very good job, did I? We both laugh, and I'll realize later on that this is the exact moment my heart fell for him, whether I wanted it to or not. Chapter 6. If you could be anywhere in the world right now, where would you want to be? He asks softly, fingers running through the ends of my loosely curled hair. After dinner, we decided to lay out on his balcony on a blanket, looking out at the city lights, where most people love country night stars. I'm a city girl through and through, so I feel most safe surrounded by blinding, sometimes flickering lights. The world is always illuminated in the center of the city. It makes life feel bright, literally and figuratively. I really do love it. I mull that question over, my hands resting on my very full and satisfied stomach. I think I'd want to be in London. Why London? His voice is low. Because even when it's too crowded for comfort, it somehow makes me feel at ease. I say, not hesitating with my response. I went there for a couple of weeks after graduation a few years ago, and as soon as I stepped out of the airport, I knew it was a place I'd never forget. He remains quiet, his fingers continuing their movements through my strands. So I take that as his silent cue to continue. I remember walking through the streets with my suitcase rolling behind me as I tried to find the apartment I'd rented out. I laugh, the memory of that day resurfacing. I was on a crowded sidewalk, trying to find my way around the city, when I almost got hit. Thankfully, I quickly avoided that catastrophe. But it was a good trip. I was in awe of everything. I didn't want to leave. You went on this trip alone? Yeah, I confirm, nodding. It was a gift to myself. And I was supposed to meet up with a foodie friend I had met online, a blogger, but that was a bust. So I enjoyed London on my own, basking in all that it was. I knew no one, and it was liberating. There were no expectations, worries, or fears. I was able to be myself without having to please someone else. It was amazing. I'm surprised you came back, he says with a chuckle. Yeah, well, had it not been for Savannah, I might not have, I reply. Do you feel that people expect a lot of you, Brooke? They used to. Maybe. I shrug. Not so much now. But there was a time when I was lost, and everyone else wanted me to follow their direction, and I refused. I realized that the only direction I should be following is my own. So I did. I do. It took my family some time to accept that I had a mind and ambitions of my own, but we're on good terms now. Becoming an adult, adulting, if you will, sort of forces people to view you in a new light. That's the first thing I noticed about you. Grayson shares, sounding a little in awe. I tilt my head to look at him. What? The fact that I was moping, talking to my drunk self in a bar? His blue eyes shine with amusement. No, it's like I was drawn to you by some unseen force. Odd as that might sound. I sit up, positioning so that my front faces his. And how about now? Still drawn to me, Grayson? His lips tilt in a half smile. The more time I spend with you, the more I want to keep spending time with you. You know, when most guys share lines like that, I laugh because they're usually spitting game or whatever, but I can tell that you're being genuine. I lean forward on my knees, hands pressing against his chest for support. You're one of the good guys, and that makes me want to run away from you like someone being chased by a spider. His face scrunches, confusion and humor transforming his features. It's a figure of speech, I say, feeling the need to clarify, though I have no doubt he knew what I meant. Also, why I am terrified of ever stepping foot in Australia, no matter how gorgeous of a country it may be. I'll never let a spider chase you, he promises. Okay, hardcore swoon. He places his hands on either side of my neck, gently gripping, face leaning toward mine. You say I'm good like it's a bad thing. Maybe it is, I whisper before pressing my lips to his in a hard, searing kiss. It's only our second real kiss, and in the same night, go figure, but I want more. I want to get lost in him. It's cheesy, pun wholly intended. But I want him. All of him. I ignore that flittering thought and focus on the task at hand. This kiss between Grayson and me. After endless, passionate kisses, he tentatively pulls away out of breath. My shaky breaths match his, and I take a deep inhale, shaking my head at his ability to make my body melt. He really is dangerous, but the nice kind, and that means I don't stand a chance. Not a single one. Ugh. You're so doomed, Brooke. So freaking doomed. I kick that voice aside and lean forward, trying to capture his lips with mine again. Just once more. He pulls back, out of reach, hands leaving my body. We should take things slow. I thought we already were, I say with my cutest, most irresistible smile. But it clearly isn't strong enough because he just shakes his head, a ghost of a smile playing on his lips. I inwardly groan. He isn't going to make this easy, but that's okay. I'm up for a challenge. More importantly, I'll respect his boundaries. Taking things slow might even be a smart idea. Why the need to rush? I was so full of crap before because this has the potential to be way more than a few hookups, and I want that with him. He's probably the most mature, level-headed guy I've ever dated, or whatever it is we're doing. Either way, all I know is that I'm going to let myself fall. I'm not going to hold myself back anymore. There's no need to. Life is full of ups and downs, and if I experience both ends of that with Grayson, then at least I can say I took the leap. Much, much easier said than done, but right now, in this moment, I really do mean it. Brooke. Grayson pulls me from my thoughts, his fingers lightly tapping against my shoulder. If we had met a few years earlier, maybe I'd be more willing to hook up and leave. But I'm not that guy. I left him behind the minute I realized what a miserable douche he was. I lift a brow at him, admitting to being a jerk in the past. I probably shouldn't have said that. He amends sheepishly. But I don't want to just hook up with you. I want something deeper than that, you know? He's laying it out there for me, offering a sliver of his heart on a gold platter. And there's a small part of me that wonders if I should deny his silent offer, should shoot him down on the spot. But I ignore that part of me because I can't do it. I don't want to. Instead, I breathe out. Good. Because you're someone I wouldn't mind more with. I surprise myself, even give myself a few, okay, more than a few, mental slaps on the back. But who knows? Maybe more will be fun. Besides, it doesn't need to be forever. It can be a for now. I'll give this a fair shot and hope my heart isn't left in pieces when or if it ends. Get out of your head, Brooke. So I do. I ignore myself and pull Grayson to me, letting his lips whisper promises I desperately want him to keep because, despite my reservations, I trust him. We spend the night with one another, taking things slow and getting to know each other better. My favorite fact I now know about him is that he's a really, really good kisser. Yay for me. Chapter 7. I spent the night with Grayson the other night. I casually share, taking a long drag of orange juice. Oh, I bet you did, Sev says, sounding just as excited as I feel. Not like that. I playfully roll my eyes. We just made out, cuddled, did some over-the-clothes touching. It was very PG, and I'm actually kind of proud of myself for it. He told me he wants to take it slow, and I like that. So, do you like him? Enough to be more than casual? She asks, eyes widening. I take another swig of orange juice. Do I like him? Yes. I like how he makes me feel, and I'm attracted to him, and I feel like I know enough about him to like him. Well, Sav pushes. Yes, I admit, shrugging my shoulders. I do. He's sweet and fun, and I'm enjoying his company. I love that for you, she says honestly. Grayson isn't the type of guy to play games or beat around the bush, you know? He's my favorite of Paul's friends. I know you, Brooke. As much as you hate to admit it, when you give just as hard. But sometimes you look at the glass as half empty instead of half full. What do you mean? I swallow over a lump, steeling myself for the words I know she is about to say because we've had variations of the same conversation many times before. You fight with your heart like it's your biggest enemy, Brooke. Sav says softly, eyes shining with understanding. And I know that you think it is, But what if you followed it just this once, completely, with zero reservations? You know, instead of shoving it down. My heart is impulsive, is my rebuttal. All hearts are. That's what makes them so great. They're fearless and resilient, and as bad as heartache sucks, it's worth it in the end. I'm walking proof of that. And she is. And I know I'm about to willingly put myself through something that has the potential to lead to heartbreak and a not-so-happy ending, because she's completely right. It's easy to say it's not worth the risk, but the more time I spend with Grayson, the more I know it is. Things are easy with him, and gosh, I really love spending time with him. I'm giving him a chance. I am. Sav sighs, hands resting on her swollen stomach, smiling. Good, because the next words out of my mouth were going to be to give the man a chance. I laugh, way ahead of you. Wonderful. She smiles. Now, please let me be the one to say, I told you so 10 years from now when you fall completely in love and settle down with him. I widen my eyes, then narrow them. It's so soon for that, but yes, I give you full permission, Savannah. Though 10 years, that's a long damn time. The thought of years with him makes my palms sweat. If I feel this way for Grayson after a few short weeks, what will years feel like? I can't even imagine. I shiver at the thought. I am not this girl. I haven't been in a long time, and if a charming guy with tropical eyes can change that so quickly, then what does that say about me? So many questions, Brooke. Just live. Stop overthinking and enjoy it because nothing lasts forever. That's definitely the truth. I know that better than anyone. So fine, screw it. I'll take the leap and jump feet first and hope I land in wide open arms along the way. Preferably Grayson's. Only his. Chapter 8. I bite my lip, trying to suppress a moan and failing miserably. I switch tactics and bite on Grayson's shirt-covered shoulder instead. Babe, we've got to be quiet or else everyone is going to know what we're doing. Grayson grunts out between thrusts. We're currently inside the guest bedroom at Sav and Paul's house. We're here to celebrate our goddaughter Luna's first birthday party. They told us to make ourselves at home, so that's exactly what we're doing. Last time I checked, we still had an hour before people started to show up. Grayson and I were in the middle of getting dressed when we looked at one another, and what can only be described as a lust rage took over, which leads us to where we are now. You feel so good, he whispers against my ear, hands gripping my thighs as he holds them apart. Every time he pushes inside me, it feels deeper than the last. And I feel so full of him and our love and this passion that we've built together over the last year. There are no words. I nod my agreement, not able to verbally repeat the words back to him. He doesn't need me to, because the way my body is trembling and the way I'm barely keeping quiet are clear indication enough. I love the way you grip me when I'm inside of you. How deep you pull me in. He picks up his pace, and I'm barely holding it together now, worried that Sav or Paul are going to call for us soon. I love you. I love you too, I say back, and I mean it. I really love him. He's been in my life for a little more than a year, and it's been filled with the best days. Sav gave me a very early I told you so a few months into my relationship with him, and all I could do was thank her, because her deciding not to have a girls' night and telling me about the same bar Paul was supposed to meet Grayson at the one she'd read about, was the best thing to ever happen to me. We've built a relationship centered on trust and friendship, and I never knew it could be like this. But I am so, so happy it is. Love and I are no longer natural-born enemies. No, Love just needed me to be patient because it was waiting for Grayson all along. When we're fully dressed, out of breath, and wholly satisfied, he presses a kiss to my shoulder and holds me from behind. I told you I was a sure thing, too. Remember? He says. And I'm transported back to that night outside of the bar and restaurant, a goofy smile on my face. You sure did. And you were right. You were a sure thing in a different way. But we both landed on the same destination in the end. Together, in love, happy. So ridiculously happy that I know it was worth the wait for you. Happily ever after isn't so overrated after all. This has been Sure Thing by Dominique Laura, read for you by Elle Sonali.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, lady listeners. I said it earlier, but make sure you grab the ebook Sure Thing for free right now before this week's over. And make sure you enter this week's giveaway. So do that. And then check out Dominique Laura on Instagram, where she posts all her latest releases, upcoming stuff, when stuff's on sale. So that's it. Thank you so much, Dominique, for being with us this week. We really appreciate it. And up next week, we have Whitney Amzine. And I'm so excited. I've never read one of her books before, so she's a new to me author. She's new to the podcast. I'm excited to have her on. So,
all right. Tell them what to do.
Fuck your day up. Make today your bitch. Don't be a dick.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Read me romance. Read me romance.